Carlsen, led by Levy, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, poor media never showed up. Hi guys, how are you?
Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, the first ever live podcast of the 3 strongest chess players in the world, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
That's one way of classifying it.
We actually discussed how to start this conversation, and we all agreed that Hikaru and I will be apologizing to everybody on behalf of the United States. We are not in talks to take Greenland. That's not... Magnus, you had some thoughts about that yesterday?
It's funny that I was looking over there. I don't know what platform that is, but there was North America, like United States, Canada, and Greenland. Maybe there was something else there, but it must be a sign. So...
Yeah, it was...
No comment.
It's a bit strange. Sometimes you travel to Europe as an American, and at the same time, some strange things are happening. So please, I'm sorry about the whole situation. We'll start on a positive note. Obviously, the last, let's say, 6.5 years have changed chess quite a bit. So Hikaru, when you think back to
that's the one, by the way.
Yeah. The map just ends.
Yeah.
Hikaru, when you think back to 2018, 2019, it was a very different time.
Mm-hmm.
What has changed the most for you?
Yeah, so I think the big differences in 2018 and 2019, my only focus was on my chess career, basically trying to stay in the top 10 in the world and or compete in the candidates tournament and have a chance to play the World Championship. But starting, I would say, in 2019, I focused a little bit more on content creation. When I was playing top-level tournaments and there were rest days, I would stream when it was possible or make recaps from the US Championship, for example. And then in 2020, when the pandemic struck, I kind of would say I had positioned myself to where chess went online completely. Everybody was stuck at home, and from then on, I mean, content creation, whether it's making videos on YouTube, whether it's live streaming, has been my main focus. And if I look back to 2018, 2019, I never could have imagined that the whole chess boom online would be what it is today, but I think that the chess world is much better off because of it.
Magnus,
Glad they're not talking about politics anymore.
Slightly different for you, obviously, because you were the world number one, are the world number one, but how has the world changed maybe for you in the last 7 years with brand activations or opportunities?
Yeah, of course, I've definitely felt the change. I get recognized a lot more. So in that sense, it's a little bit of a negative. Like there's a loss of privacy, I think, for everybody. But you can just see how chess, more people started following chess. That was the first thing during the pandemic, but I think it was even more noticeable late 2022 and early 2023 when, well, because of you guys and others, chess just seemed to show up in everybody's algorithms.
Levy
And
made
that
Magnus more famous,
was
and
an
Magnus made Levy more
even
famous.
bigger change because everybody's already at that point they were all doom scrolling, and then all of a sudden chess was showing up, and all of a sudden everybody knew about this one guy who was appeared 2.5 minutes late for his blitz game and so on. So things have certainly changed. And to touch on Hikaru's point earlier on as well, the pandemic really changed the chess world from being solely focused on classical chess and mainly the path to the World Championship. Now it's a little bit
people talk about Hans
more
Newman's hair and
more kind of diverse, because back then there were certain events. There was the Speed Chess Championship, which I think both of us certainly cared about, and there were a few rapid and blitz tournaments within the Grand Chess Tour, but really you made your name in classical tournaments, and that was it. The whole chess world really revolved around fragmented classical tournaments plus the World Championship, and chess fans, whom there were much fewer of, and more kind of legacy ones, that's all they cared about as well. Whereas now there's a creator space that didn't exist back then, and yeah, it's just very different.
I'll also just give people my context of the last 7 years and some numbers. So chess basically had 3 inflection points. The first being Queen's Gambit, which was on Netflix, obviously seen in some 100+ million households. That was the first time that, as a, person locked inside their house in 2020, the days we all remember, you had to become a hybrid chess teacher. You were teaching kids on Zoom, and they were also doing school on Zoom, which was just insane. And then when the Queen's Gambit came out, your videos would be recommended in the sidebar, and in a 48-hour window, you would see your content go from 80,000 views to 1 million, simply from, this is a trailer for Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and here is how to play the Queen's Gambit, which was my video from 3 months before that. I had no idea that was going to be, I'm dressed in a crown. Like, I don't think the thumbnail has even changed if you literally look it up now. It's just, it's a terrible thumbnail, and that video, kind of kicked the whole thing off. And then the second inflection was, I will not ask too much about this, but it was the Magnus Carlsen Hans Niemann, September 4th, 2022. That was another big inflection point, but then January 2023, there was an explosion of short-form content. So like you said, doom scrolling. It went from, how do you educate somebody for 30 seconds in chess to play an opening? Well, turns out it's possible. I mean, you scroll, you learn how to play some Gambit, you go to chess.com, you lose, you go back to YouTube, you keep learning, and I remember it took me 18 months to go from 1 to 2 million subscribers, and it took me 40 days to go from 2 to 3. Like, the viewership January 2023 was unbelievable. I think that month all my content had 300 million views, which is roughly the size of the US, which is mind-blowing. And this is sort of what we've relied on. I mean, generally, if Magnus slams the table, 200 million people suddenly care about chess for the week.
Hikaru throws a king.
But we sometimes struggle, and by we, I mean it's not even clear, right? Like, exactly who in chess is the ultimate event. We have a lot of scattered tournaments, and we'll talk about that. That was going to be my next question. You've been world #1 for, some 15 years at this point. At which point, and this is unique to chess, I feel, where a player can sort of be consulted and you talk to the International Federation about the format. When did you start having like a seat at the table to maybe shape the format or decide what the World Championship should look like?
Well, I kind of had my opinions from an early age. Specifically, I thought that the privilege of a rematch for not a rematch, but of earning a match for the world champion was always going to be wrong. That there's always one person seeded into the final. So that was kind of the first thing that I that I wanted to change. There's been so many discussions about that in the past, but sports is about a couple of different things. Like, you want there to be excitement. You want it to be likely that the better team or better player is going to win, but you want there to be serious doubt about the outcome in most cases. And it seemed to me that the way the World Championship was being played, especially, there was a little bit too much randomness for the prestige that this title had. So I think if you were to have more frequent tournaments or a knockout format, for instance, then it would be more like, well, you crown a new champion every year, and the title doesn't mean as much. Whereas if you want the title to mean as much as it was supposed to mean for chess players, then you need more games, different time controls, and so on. But in terms of seat at the table, I don't feel like I've ever gotten a lot of support from the chess community at large, or the federation for my views. So my position has mainly been that I was always going to step away at some point and then kind of let it be.
I've always said that in the last 6 years, even though there's been such a big hype around chess and so many people getting into it as we see here, and not just here, chess is probably the second largest participated in activity in the world outside of football, soccer. But why have we not capitalized? It's a conference on innovation, so I'll throw you this question because you have the unique experience of doing content creation full-time and kind of playing chess full-time and sort of joking that you're a streamer and you don't necessarily, have as much pressure with some of the stuff like the candidates, but why has chess not successfully captured such a massive global audience?
Yeah, so I think everyone's aware of the fact that the numbers vary, but I would say something like 400 million people at least play chess around the world. And when you look at that number, I think that football, since we're in Europe, it's the only sport that has a bigger following. I think the big issues with chess are the fact that it's very hard to monetize the game. It's a game that is basically free in the sense that you have to buy a chessboard and pieces if you want to play in person, or you can go online and play the game, and you don't really have to spend any money whatsoever. And I think that when we look at a lot of the major sports, there are things like merchandise, and there's a following around teams and around specific players. And it's very difficult because in chess we have a governing body that I think doesn't really care about the players specifically. They really only care about keeping the organization running. That, of course, would be FIDE. And unless we have ways of like creating bigger fan bases and having ways of selling merch or selling chess sets that are branded, it's very unlikely, I think, that we can necessarily make chess a game that has a big commercial that becomes a big commercial success. But I do hope that I'm proven wrong and that my views are just not the best.
It was a matter of time before they started complaining about FIDE.
Last year in July we had the Esports World Cup. We've talked a lot about it. But you never know who out there as a chess follower is following casually, doesn't quite maybe understand like how big of an opportunity something can be in the world of chess. So just how important is the Esports World Cup for chess, having chess included along with all of the other games? And you told me you've attended mobile games where it's like ridiculous how the players are playing, but it's a completely packed house. So what were your experiences at Esports World Cup last year, and are you optimistic about where it can go in the future?
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was utterly fascinating. Not only the chess part, but everything that's going on. It was a completely new world to me, but I think it just shows the possibilities that there are. So what happened there was there were a few crucial steps that were being taken. First of all, you simplify the time control. Sounds obvious, right? But this has been talked about for years. I've had discussions with FIDE, the International Chess Federation, for the World Championship, for instance. Like they used to want to have this time control where you have an hour 40 for the first 40 moves, but you have an increment at 50 minutes, and so on. And the point is, for an audience, you generally have to show them that there cannot be like time added. If you run out of time, you run out of time, right? So that's one of the things that was kind of obvious, but just remove the increment. When you play online events as well, or on a computer, it makes it easier. Pieces are not going to fly in time trouble, so you can easily play without increment. And it added,
I missed a good order.
Without like a lot of cost, it added an extra element of intrigue, whether people would be able to play their moves on time. The production was better. First of all, the final matches were staggered, which is an obvious step, but because of time constraints and other things. It's not always been done in the chess world, but in other esports, like you wouldn't have two semifinal matches going on at the same time because people are fans of different players, different teams. They don't want to miss out. And the production as well, the way they presented everything. I don't know exactly what they did. It can still be improved, but it was very, very exciting. And also, I think there's a room for having live audience like you did there. Allow people, because I don't believe that chess fans have no desire whatsoever to be loud when the bar reacts to something, when their favorite player makes a brilliant move or a blunder. I think they want to react. So the first edition, I think, was tremendously exciting, and that was without a lot of hype before. Now we have a year of people knowing that even a lot of skeptics, they found this to be the closest that chess has ever been to a proper sporting experience, a proper fan experience. And now with a year of building up, I'm really excited to see what can happen.
Hikaru, I don't know, you also have some thoughts, because you were there, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Esports World Cup was a step in the right direction. I think one of the big problems as well with chess is that there's very little engagement. So when you have fans show up to watch a match, generally they watch a game, you see it finish, there's no engagement, there's nothing to get excited about. And I think when you look on the technological front, having things like the evaluation bar, having time running down are very important. When you compare chess to a traditional sport, if you look at football, I mean, okay, there's the added time, obviously, but you know exactly what the situation is. And with chess, up until quite recently, it was very common to have added time after every single move. And so if you're a fan, you know very little about the game, and you see someone make a move with 1 second, and they get 10 seconds or 30 seconds, and they can build up the time, it really kills the dramatic effect. So I think the lack of adding time is very important. I think having the evaluation bar also plays a very big role.
I was going to say commentators.
You know, for the Esports World Cup, I think it was very natural for players to wear headphones. You're playing on a computer. It's what everyone's used to doing at home. So it was a very seamless sort of fit. I think with over-the-board games or tournaments where you're using physical pieces on a board, it's much harder to do that because obviously wearing headphones isn't natural. You listening to music isn't natural. So that made the esports event very, very exciting. And I think that if you try to build upon that, if there are future events like say at a DreamHack, which I think chess.com is planning in the future, it's a great opportunity to have these in-person events where you can have a lot of fans showing up. The players won't hear anything, and you really have this integration that I think could make chess very big, and it can be much more like an e-sport, which I think is really the path forward if we want chess to grow in a way where fans follow it more than just the hardcore chess audience, which is effectively the top 0.1% of fans. The 99% of fans are probably 1,000 rating or lower, and we really need to try to appeal to that audience without, of course, sacrificing integrity. But esports and online events, I think, are the only path to really have that integration between the casual fan and top-level events.
Do you agree, chat?
Yeah,
Are you 1,000 or lower?
Because I don't know what distribution we have here of
Let's
people who
Hikaru
follow
wrong.
chess very closely versus people who might have gotten into the game, know some big names, watch some YouTube, and that's kind of it. Yeah, watching chess is difficult. It's a difficult thing to watch. You can, even for me, like I can take my dog on a walk and I can listen in my ear what the commentators are saying and vaguely imagine
Commentators mentioned.
Finally.
vaguely imagine the position in my head.
Finally.
But even when you
Mentions
watch the whole thing, as a casual fan, it's extremely complicated because, okay, you have the bar, fantastic, it says 0.6. What the hell is 0.6? I mean, in any other sport, you turn it on the TV, it can be literally anything. It's like, oh, that person's winning. Okay, and I kind of watch, I sort of get how you score some points, and within 5 minutes, I have a very surface level understanding of how the sport works. chess is completely not the same. I mean, if a person makes a move and both sides have 70 minutes remaining on the clock, you then have to explain the consequences of this decision. So there is a lot of innovation from the production standpoint of chess. And maybe, you know, you see all these really complicated stats now in football and also in American football because you have Amazon partnering, you have all these, you know, complicated tech companies and they show all the hot spots and all this stuff. It's very fascinating. I think one interesting point for the crowd would be the following, and I just thought of this. As we are sitting here now, the Wimbledon of chess is happening, right? Like, that's what they call it. This tournament in the Netherlands, there's a bunch of very, very strong players playing. You both have played many times. When people think Wimbledon of chess, you think the best players in the world are all going to play. You know, you think it's a very prestigious tournament. You think there's enough on the line. It's clearly part of something very important. It's one of the 4 major tournaments of the year. So can I ask you, why are you not playing? Not because you should play, but just in case it gives people perspective on how different it all is at the top level, right? Like, why are people playing there and why are you here?
They're going to say
Me
they
or
don't like
Magnus?
classical.
You can start.
Sure. So for myself, I think it's a very unique situation. I have to balance content creation alongside trying to play chess professionally. And for me, at this stage in my career, and in a way similar to Magnus, there are only a handful of things from a professional standpoint that well, I guess Magnus has accomplished all these things, but that I haven't accomplished. So for me, the only thing that really holds value as far as classical chess goes, the slow form, is trying to get to the candidates or win the world championship. That's my only interest. Otherwise, I'd rather just go and create content all day long, every day. And that's the main reason that I'm not playing this. The Wimbledon of chess, as they call it, which is, of course, this Tata Steel tournament in the Netherlands. And having played it as well, it's a very long tournament. You go, you stay 3 weeks in one location, and just doesn't really have much appeal to me. If it were in some way a qualification towards the candidates, I would definitely be there competing.
But inherently, that is pretty crazy, right? Because in tennis, you also go somewhere for 3 weeks, but if it's Wimbledon, it's Wimbledon. You know?
So, I mean, I think I think what you're trying to get me to talk about is another big issue with the spectators who follow chess is that there's no real set calendar of events, and there's no real rhyme or reason to which event matters more. There's some events that, like the Esports World Cup, that many of us really like. There are events like Tata Steel, which in some ways is prestigious, in some ways it's not. And I think the lack of having a set standard of tournaments that are just qualifications towards like the ultimate title is really a big issue currently, and I think it would be better if we had, say, a standard series of 6 tournaments that are considered the best in the world. All the top players compete, similar to the ATP. If you have that, I think it would be easier to keep the general audience interested in showing up to watch tournament after tournament, and maybe that will happen. There's certain events like the Total World Championship coming up, which could achieve that goal. But I think the biggest issue is that every tournament has different stakes, and it's really a fragmented set of tournaments and organizers, and without a clear-cut defined plan of what tournaments are important, it's hard to really keep people interested, and that's why I'm not playing, at least.
I don't know if you have anything to add?
Chess will start a bit later, everyone, don't worry.
I will say
it's coming soon.
that I was seriously considering to play Tata Steel this year, not because I felt that not because it's the Wimbledon of chess or anything like that, but I think it's good to give myself challenges once in a while to do something that, like, to some extent, I don't really want to do that. Spend 3 weeks playing a classical tournament, but I think it can be good for me to kind of force myself to take on that challenge. For me, the reason why I didn't go was that I thought I'd keep the decision open until after my son was born, and after that, after a couple of weeks of being really tired, I thought, well, I'm not going to spend 3 weeks playing classical tournaments if I can have a break.
You'll be the oldest by 4 years as well, older than any player.
As you said, it is certainly a problem in chess that you have competing interests, you have competing formats, and there's very little in terms of a common cycle, a common goal to bring chess forward.
Can you give people an understanding of how much the pre-tournament and pre-game preparation has changed in the last 10 years? Like you played Tata Steel 10 years ago, or any major tournament, you might play Hikaru, Fabiano, these other players. What has changed the most from 2016 to 2026?
Well, 2016, I don't know, but I would say 29 since 2019, when neural networks started to come along with AlphaZero and then Lila and others, it has made preparation for tournaments a lot easier. I think I'm not going to, I don't want to minimize the work that players do, but I see people talking about how I am not playing the Classical World Championship, for instance, because it takes months and months of work to prepare. That's simply not true anymore. I don't know if it's true that Ding spent 2 weeks preparing for his last World Championship match, but it could be. It very well could be. And he played the French, which I know that you've warned about, and other content creators have warned about, and he was fine. That's the way it has become with